everyone, my name's Rebecca. Welcome to my little corner of YouTube where I love to discuss all things sewing and fabric. I'm going to talk to you today about the Playdate Blouse by Matchy Matchy Sewing Club. If that sounds good to you, stay tuned. I have started on my first version of the Playdate Blouse by Matchy Matchy Sewing Club, and I intend to make two. I finished my first version last night and it's good but not great, so I'm going to make a couple of changes today, but I thought I'd talk you through the process and you can see where I'm up to and what I'm thinking and how I have tweaked the pattern. So the Playdate blouse is described as an intermediate level pattern. It's a little picky of it here. It's got loads of lovely little extra features, and this is how Matchy Matchy Sewing Club describes it. The Playdate blouse is a joyful statement making button up with a playful silhouette and standout details. This blouse is all about leaning into fun, expressive sewing. The design is relaxed fitting and features a gently shaped waist for a flattering fit, paired with a ruffle hem that's slightly cropped in the front and dips lower in the back. This swishy detail adds movement and charm without feeling fussy. The sleeves hit just below the elbow and finished with a soft puff for an easy feminine shape. The star of the show is the oversized collar, finished with a ruffle trim that feels bold, whimsical, and full of personality. It's the kind of detail that turns a simple blouse into a true statement piece. I will totally agree with that description from what I've made, what I've cut out, and what I have observed from other people online so far. The Playdate blouse comes together quickly and is genuinely fun to sew. It's a great next step project for sewers who have a few garments under their belt and are ready to enjoy a pattern with standout details while still having a smooth, satisfying making experience. I totally agree with all those statements. It is really fun. It is an intermediate pattern that if you've done a couple of things, you can definitely attempt this because Matchy Matchy has excellent instructions and will walk you through each step. I have done my first version in vintage cotton, and I've done, which is kind of like a light to mid-weight fabric, and then I've done the collar in a denim. Now, I did worry about the fact that the denim was heavier than the cotton, and if I hold the blouse up for you, which I will in a minute, you'll see that the collar does pull the cotton down a little bit, and I was worried I would have to do extra reinforcement for that. But once I place it on my body, it sits really nicely because just the weight of the denim is taken on my shoulders and my body. So here is what I have done so far. Here are the fabrics. And the collar. Now here are a few things I've done differently. I decided I did not want to go with the bottom ruffle and the ruffle around the collar. I decided the collar was statement enough. So I did originally cut out the ruffle and then decided against using it, and I am glad about that. I have put on a little bit of embroidery around the collar, but I did do it in a matching thread, so you can only see it if you get up close. That's actually okay with me because I think the collar itself and the fabric that I've paired it with are quite statement, but I'll bring this up close and we'll see if you can see the embroidery. Okay, I did not make my own bias binding for the neck. I already had some really quite nice cotton. So cotton bias binding that I'd previously bought, I think just at an op shop, possibly somewhere else. Anyway, so that's what I've used. It went in really nicely. This is one of the steps that makes it an intermediate rather than a beginner pattern, the collar. Now there are a couple of techniques here that I had previously done with other blouses and shirts, but I hadn't done in a while. And that is using the bias to reinforce the join of the collar to the neck or the bodice, and to tuck all those seams away. It does work out nice and neatly. It's not my favorite way of attaching a collar, but it does work, and it just hides any little bits that you may have included. It's also quite neat on the outside, but of course that part is hidden by the collar. The other thing I did was omitting the ruffle meant this would be extremely cropped. So I extended the length of the bodice by 15 centimeters on front and back. I did, however, make a huge error in not realizing I had to extend the side pieces as well. And so what I had to do was, instead of extending those, which would have lost a lot of the shape, I actually used the cutting line where it says shorten or extend here, and I popped a piece in the center. And I thought I'd make a feature of it and have the fabric go a different direction, but to be perfectly honest, I don't think it makes any difference. No one will notice it because it's right under my arm. So that took me quite a bit longer to extend all the pieces and then to fix that error and to cross my fingers and hope I'd still kept the correct shapes. Now, the next thing I had to think about was then the hem. Now, even though I extended it 15 centimeters, that did not make it long. It just made it a good length for either wearing out or tucking in. I don't like really long shirts, so even though I extended it 15 centimeters, I would suggest that for many people that is still too short. I'll show you in the pictures at the end. So instead of doing a hem, I decided the best thing to do would be continue the bias. So I had some more of that bias binding, and I find a bias binding hem, when it's curved, is much neater and easier than trying to iron up, especially iron up twice if you want that turned hem on a curve. And it went in really, really neatly. The rest of my seam finishes are just all zigzag to stop the fraying because I don't have an overlocker, and that works just fine for me. No one's going to see it, but even if they do, it's still nice and neat. So that bias hem went in really nicely on the curve, and if you do catch a glimpse of it, I think it ties in rather nicely with the whole theme of the red and the blue. And it's the same around the neck. You don't actually see it once the shirt is on. So last night I did manage to finish it all off, put in the buttonholes, put on the buttons and try it on. I like it, I don't love it. I'll put in some pictures while I'm talking about this. What I don't like is it was just a little bit too big to feel stylish for me. I think I'll probably wear it tucked in and that will help a little bit. But I think I need to size down at least one size. And I think on my second one, I will keep the shape of the collar, but I will reduce it quite a little bit. I do not like that the collar went beyond my shoulders. I think perhaps that sometimes happens with people who go for the larger sizes. Then other parts of the pattern get substantially larger as well. For me, the collar, especially with the stiff fabric, is too large and it's got too much structure. It won't sit. I'm going to take my button placket and where I had the other placket for the buttons, I've already snipped all the buttons off last night, and I'm just going to turn those over, and that will be all up probably about taking 6 centimeters off the girth of it once I pull that in. And when I pull it in as well, it pulls the collar around, and instead of the collar pieces going out, they kind of come in a little bit and the whole collar sits a lot more flatly. So I'm going to try that. The other thing I didn't like is related to user error rather than pattern error. When I went to finish off the sleeves, I could not find this sleeve cuff piece anywhere. I've lost it. I don't know if I ever cut it out, but that's been lost. So I did a bit of measuring and put it on, and it worked out fine. But when I put it on, I realized it was probably still too big. That needed to come in a little bit more. And I didn't like that when I put it on, the angle the sleeves sit at, it's got a nice swish and a nice hang to it. But for this particular fabric, you can see quite a lot of the inside. What I'm going to try is to insert elastic around here. I've picked a little hole in the seam, and I'm going to try to insert some elastic so that will come in, and I can push it up if I wish or leave it down, and that will just give a little bit more structure to the sleeve as well. So they are the two changes I'm going to sit down and have a go at today. So that's simply turning over both plackets and then redoing buttonholes and buttons and adding a little bit of elastic to the bottom of the sleeve band. But I had already done quite a few adjustments by removing the ruffle and extending the length. If you are going to do that, don't make my error and leave off extending the side panels. Okay, I think if this works out, it's going to be a really nice, comfortable statement blouse. So let's have a go. Breakfast has been eaten, coffee has been drunk, and all the adjustments have been made. So the elastic around the arm, I've got a long sleeve underneath because it's winter here. The elastic around the arm worked. I like that. I'm still not sure I like the length. It feels like a bit much, but I'll wear it a couple of times, see how I go. Folding under the button placket worked as well, and I ended up not doing all the buttons. I redid 2 buttonholes and sewed on 2 buttons, and then I just sewed up the seam. Looks like it was meant to be. It's just enough to get my head through, and that'll do. And I think this is still a little bit too big for me, but I do realize it's more structured because it's denim. I think I would like a little bit smaller, but bringing the button placket in did pull it so it's more in line with my shoulders rather than sticking out from my shoulders, and it brought these points. They were kind of like a little bit more like that before, and now they're sitting a little bit more nicely. So I think I'll get some wear out of this. I've got it on with a pair of blue corduroy trousers today. I think what would go really nicely with this is a long denim skirt. So I'm going to keep my eye out for that. I do have some denim in my stash, and I do have a couple of skirt patterns, so that may eventuate. I'm going to go outside and take a few photos so you can see the whole thing. I'll do it with it tucked in and with it out so you can see the length without the ruffle and 15 centimeters added to the bodice length. That is version 1. Version 2, I've got cut out and I decided to go with the original with the ruffles around the collar and the ruffle around the bottom of the bodice. I am going to adjust the bodice by doing this double tuck under to bring the collar in a little bit more, and I am going to just adjust the width of the collar a little bit. Everything else I'll stick to and see if that works for me. I have cut it out in this lightweight cotton. It is a vintage cotton I picked up somewhere along the way. It's mainly a light blue with a little bit of navy blue and lilac and green, and I thought I'd gotten the whole pattern out and then realized I'd left off the sleeves, which are quite large pieces, and I did not have a large enough piece left. So I've got 2 options to go with the sleeves. It will be a truly Matchy Matchy Sewing Club-esque make with putting bits and pieces together. So I've got this other vintage floral blue fabric, which could be the sleeves. Hopefully you could see that, and I think I quite prefer this. I think the blue tones just give it a little bit more warmth actually, but let me know what you think. Which fabric should I go for the sleeve? Should I go the floral? Should I go the check? Also, let me know if you have made the Playdate blouse. How did you find it? I've not ever made something with a really large collar. It was a bit of a style challenge for me to see if I could pull it off. I'm going to live with it for a bit, make friends with it, see how I go. What did you think about the pattern? What do you think about the style? And what fabrics have you used or would you use? I think most people online that I've seen have gone with much more floaty and less structured pieces, so the collar has just sat with the blouse rather than apart from the blouse, and I really think that's pretty and I like that too. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your creativity, enjoying whatever you're doing today. Take care everyone. Bye for now.